Hi friends, today I want to talk about scheduling. How do you schedule your day? And what curriculum do you use for each subject? For me, I like to consider myself an eclectic homeschooler, meaning I might use different types of curriculum that don't exactly always go together, and that's fine because it's whatever works for you and works for your child. I like to take a rough guideline of how I want our week to look. And I do use ChatGPT as a tool to help me plan, but not to do my work for me. I know that every day we start school at 8:30. That seems to be the sweet spot for both my son and me, especially because I work after we do school. So if we start at 8:30, I like to be done by 12 when at all possible. So Monday through Wednesday, we adhere to that schedule. On Thursday, we have more wiggle room because I don't have to work on Thursdays. So starting off strong with our morning basket. Oh, also, after I put my rough draft into ChatGPT, then I take my homeschool planner and go through and write everything down more intentionally and specifically, like by lesson, by unit, whatever it may be, to keep myself on track. But I sit down every Sunday night and do my schedule for that week. And sometimes during the middle of the week, I might adjust it. The morning up, I might change it. I just like to use a schedule as a simple a floating guideline, if you will, not with timestamps, but just to keep me on track with what we're doing. So, first off, morning basket. Now, Monday through Wednesday, our schedule is pretty much the same. Starting at 8:30, my child gets a choice between music appreciation, training aliens, and Bible. Now, for music appreciation, we do the good and the beautiful. For Bible, right now we're using Not Consumed, and we're on the Miracles unit. And training aliens, I talked about on here the other day, it helps with social and emotional skills. Next up is language arts. Now, I am currently using the Good and the Beautiful level 3, even though my son is technically in the 4th grade, because that is where he placed on his assessment for the Good and the Beautiful. Right now, for reading, we're doing Timothy of the 10th Floor. But not only this, I add in my own choice of read alouds. But the way my son processes reading, we can't have two chapter books going at the same time. So, you know. Also, with the Good and the Beautiful level 3, the spelling is incorporated in his language arts book. We're not using their spelling app yet because technically you start it with level 4. I don't know that I'm 100% sold on the way they do spelling, but I am committed to working through it in this level and then changing if we need to. Next up, we do math, which I am doing the Good and the Beautiful once again, level 3, because that is where he placed. Also, though, I wanted to start a soft introduction of division because last year in 3rd grade at his school, they barely touched on it. And I just want to make sure he is getting a mixture of things he would be getting if he were actually on 4th grade level math. So I'm using Multiplication Facts That Stick by Kate Snow, and I cannot recommend her series of books enough. She has addition facts, subtraction facts, multiplication, and division, and I like those books are really, really good. They're really helpful. And when I say soft launching it, we're staying in the lower numbers and the ones that correlate with the multiplication facts because I thought this is a great time to tie in as we're learning our multiplication facts. So next up is history. Now, I've changed history curriculums a couple of times, but right now we are doing master books, America's Story 1. But I'm also tying in things of my own, like read alouds and worksheets, because right now we happen to be on a deep dive of Native American culture, because that is his interest right now. And that is one of the great things about homeschool, that you can lean in where you have interest and just stay on that for longer than you typically would in a regular school setting. Now, next up is our loop subjects. I like to loop geography or science. So for geography, we're doing Not Grass, Our 50 States. And for science, we are doing Paleontology unit of The Good and the Beautiful. After that, he has his skills time where we do handwriting and typing. Next, I'm calling it an elective, but I let him choose from a selection of an art project, whether it be painting or a craft, a nature study, which we'll lean more into once it cools off, because in the South it's 100 degrees, humidity also 100, and it's miserable outside for most of the day. Also, he can choose between 5 in a row or a STEAM activity. So essentially, anytime in that block of all the books and resources he has to him, he can pick something and we can just do that thing. Now, that's Monday through Wednesday. On Thursday, we'd still do morning basket, his choice. And then instead of our typical The Good and the Beautiful language arts, we do essentials in writing, we also write in his creative writing journal, because that's just something he enjoyed over the summer. So we're keeping with it. And I think it gives him more writing practice than what he typically gets in his The Good and the Beautiful lessons. And then for math, same as the other days. And then we loop our subject, science or geography. And then we'll do a read aloud and discussion. So typically for our read aloud on this day, I'll pick something that ties into something we've learned that week. Or we'll just pick a children's book from 5 in a row and start a row of a certain book, whichever one he thinks is interesting. And then we have an elective time, which once again, he gets to choose. So on Thursdays, we mix it up a little bit. Now, anything that we may not have gotten done during Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, we have time to catch up on Thursday. And then Friday is always a field trip. I can't tell you every single time it's going to be a field trip that has incorporated with a lesson that we're doing, but I believe you're going to learn something doing life stuff no matter what. So I'm not hyper focused on, this doesn't go with what we learned this week. It's fine. We always find something to learn just in daily life, right? I absolutely love this planner, A Simple Plan. It has kept me on track better than any scheduling program, app, book, or anything I've ever used. And also putting all my stuff into ChatGPT and just having it put it in a good layout that I can visually see everything laid off. I know that I'm going to get it done because I am a checklist type of person when it's something that I have a hyper focus on, which right now is homeschooling, and it will stay homeschooling because it benefits my child. So that has made me more of a type A person in some respects, even though I am obviously very type B. But you tell me, what does your schedule look like? What curriculum are you using for the different subjects? And I know that we usually start at 8:30. We're typically done by 11:30. I think we've really gotten into a good groove. Now, some days, like today, for example, we had horseback riding this morning. So we did school in the afternoon, even though it is Friday, because Wednesday we didn't have school because we had dentist appointments. So I just made that day our field trip day instead. So because we did have horseback in the morning and came back in the afternoon and did school in the afternoon, we both do better sticking to our schedules. Now, the days I work, I have to be done by 12 because I start work between 12 and 12:30. So that's why it is important for me to stick to a schedule. Would I like it more if we could do more lackadaisical and spend more time and slow it down? Sure. But because I am a working mom, it just doesn't work that way. So tell me how it works for your family. How do you schedule your days? What curriculum are you using? Are you loving it? Are you thinking about switching? And if you want to switch, it's okay because I already have a couple of times. And I'll continue to adjust as needed. So let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.